His name is synonymous with local news. That's the part we know. It's the part we don't know that I hope to unravel on this episode of Lakeland Now in View. I'm Andrea Oliver, and yes, I'm talking with the man, the legend, Barry Friedman. Barry Friedman.
Hi.
You're sitting in the hot seat tonight.
I'm used to being behind the camera.
Yes, you are. And so I'm asking, are you nervous?
I am, just a little bit. I'm just usually behind the camera and being a technical person.
Well, I'm kind of glad you said that, because I was going to tell you, be very nervous. We are we are at Bella Visage, and it really is, it's an honor. I mean, I know that might sound a little cheesy, but it's an honor to talk with you.
Thank you.
I, like I said, you know, you call your name, say the name Barry Friedman, and it engenders such respect and awe. And it does. And I'm not sure that you are aware how very well liked you are. And as a journalist, that is like an amazing feat. So I guess I have to ask Barry Friedman, how have you been able to engender such trust and likability?
You know, part of it's having been in the community for so many years. I've been here since 1982 when I became city editor of the Ledger. One of the things about the likability was I'd like to think that I'm channeling Bob Turner. And Bob Turner was my first city editor when I was a new reporter at the Tampa Times in 1975. Bob was a fatherly figure. Most of us were in our 20s, early 30s, and Bob was 50, which seemed old to me at the time. It seems really young now. But Bob was just a super nice guy. He was the city editor. City editors are supposed to be mean and gruff and demanding, and Bob was none of those things. And when you went out on the beat and talked to people, they remembered Bob from when he'd been a reporter in the 50s and the 60s, and everybody had wonderful things to say about him. So somehow maybe Bob Turner rubbed off, and I'd like to think that's the case. He was such a nice person.
Well, you mentioned coming to this area and heading to the Tampa market, where I think you stayed for about 7 years or so before moving to Lakeland. You spent a large part of your professional career covering Polk County, and specifically working as an editor at the Ledger.
That's correct.
And so I just wanted to find out from you, as you've honed those journalistic skills over the years, I am sure there must have been some times when you asked yourself the question, am I really getting the job done?
That's a good question. You know, when I first came to Polk County, you know, it was 1982, I was hired as city editor of the Ledger. And I told my boss that I would probably be here for about 5 years. And then I was going to go on to a much bigger place. But you know, Lakeland kind of grows on you. Kids went to school here, made good friends. My wife and I made good friends, and we just became part of the community. So in that sense, definitely got the job done. Journalism, you know, both the city editor, particularly at the Ledger, and what I do here, there are just so many stories to be told, and you always feel that there's just so many stories that you were not telling. So it always feels like there's more that can be done. I always feel like I need to just never finished.
Never finished. So during that tenure, and you know, you held a number of positions there, and it being one of the lead editors by the time you left in 2014. When you look back at that time, what do you think were your greatest lessons there?
Oh gosh. I think probably the biggest lesson was to keep my eye on the horizon in terms of what is going to be happening and the way news is delivered. I mean, I think the skills it takes to gather the information, tell the stories remain the same. But I always was interested in how people were going to be telling those stories, what technology they were going to use. And that really led me to found theledger.com back in 1995 when a lot of people hadn't even heard of the internet yet. And, you know, that's the second half of my career at the Ledger. That's what I did. I kind of grew the ledger.com from literally one page on the World Wide Web. I can probably find it on the on the Internet Archives, to at the point that I left, we were up to 12 million page views a
Yes.
month. So it had become a pretty big part of the operation.
So you grew up in Atlanta, and I have heard some interesting stories about that child with something about taking the car and driving girl. Anyway, no, we won't go there. But
Thank you.
I want to ask about that childhood and that rich heritage that lends to the man you are today.
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, I grew up in a family with 4 kids. We went to grew up in Northwest Atlanta. It's an area that's now called Buckhead. We didn't think of it as Buckhead when I was growing up. A high school that was academically pretty advanced, and I think 90 some odd percent of the students went to college. So it was just kind of assumed that you were college bound there, and just had a lot to do with where I am now. I went from there to the University of Florida.
Go Gators.
And I never left Florida after
Never
that.
left Florida.
I've been in Florida ever since.
I somehow don't picture you, Barry, so maybe that's something we're going to learn
Right.
today, but I somehow don't picture you like being a huge sports person when you were growing up. I picture you sitting off in a corner reading some books. How accurate is this?
Pretty accurate. I mean, I played a little bit of sports growing up, but it never was a big focus of my life. My wife kind of jokes it back when, this is actually before I met her, so stuff I told her about, but that when my friends, this would be like probably late high school, early college, when all the guys were off playing cards, I would be, hey, I thought it was a good time to go flirt with the girls because there wasn't much competition.
Are you trying to tell me you've always been a girl's man? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe just a flirt.
Just a little, until Sharon, right?
Exactly.
How did you meet Sharon?
Sharon and I met at the University of Florida. We were set up by her roommate, and she was kind of devious about it. She told Sharon that there's this guy that wants to meet her, and told me that there's this girl that wants to meet me. And neither one was true. We hadn't really said it, but she set us up, and we happened to be passing each other. We sort of knew who each other was. And we started talking, and an hour later, she had missed her student government meeting, and I'd missed my class.
But they say the rest is history.
Yeah, that was 40, how many years ago? 40, that was 74, so 46 years ago.
Wow, and they're two beautiful girls who are a product of that fabulous union. So you've been curating news in this local area for several decades.
Right.
Your latest project, LkldNow, you said that your goal is to foster civic engagement.
Exactly.
Tell us exactly what that looks like.
So it really started, the idea germinated from some focus groups we had at the Ledger back in probably 2012 or so. And the idea was to talk to people who we thought should be our customers, but weren't. They were people who were small business owners and professionals, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and they were not people who read the paper. And they let some of us editors observe. We couldn't talk, but my takeaway from that was that people in the room felt that if something important was happening, they were going to find it out on Facebook. That's how they were going to find out about local news. And I realized that's not a really good formula for finding local news. And I also realized that, that the newspaper was no longer that glue that connected people to the community. So my thought was, how do you form those connections? How do you get the information that people need to become informed citizens? And that's when the idea for LkldNow emerged. We started a website. We're very active on social media. Frankly, if I had it to do over again, we would probably focus it a lot more on an email newsletter, probably a daily email newsletter.
And the reason for that, Barry, would be why?
Well, because a lot of our audience is on Facebook, they use Facebook as the intermediary. They don't come to LkldNow.com as often as I would like. Now, some people do, and we have several hundred, maybe even a few thousand people who come on a daily basis. But so many people interface with us by what they see on Facebook. By doing a newsletter, you go directly to them, you connect in a very personal way. One of the things I've been really gratified by with our newsletter is I have a personal message at the top every week. It comes out on Thursday afternoon, and just about every week I get emails from people responding to what I say in the message. So it's been a really good way to connect on a one-on-one basis with readers.
You're having to do news and parlay, so to speak, your journalistic skills in an era where you mentioned social media is king.
Right,
And
right.
if it's seen on Facebook and Instagram, then it has to be so. How do you stay true to that deep thing inside of you that says there's a way to do it, and there's a way to do it right, and there's a way to
Right,
say it, and there's a way to
right.
say it right?
You know, it's just, it's sort of, I've been doing it for so long, it's almost inbred, the fact that that you need to try to be as honest as you can and as impartial and dispassionate as you
Yes.
can, and illuminating the community for your readers. It's just, I don't know, it's what I do. and I do get bothered sometimes when I see people sharing things on social media that they either know isn't true or suspect isn't true, but they share it anyway because it's
Right.
just too good. I'm not going to mention names, but there was one case where somebody had said something on Facebook. This was back when Doug Thomas was still the city manager, and it was untrue. And I pointed out to the person it was untrue. And a few hours later, it was still on there. And I said, well, aren't you going to take it down? And he said, oh, yeah, I guess I should. But, you know, to me, if I find out that something I publish isn't accurate, I'm going to change it really quickly and hopefully be very upfront about changing it. So
I think that's why the respectability and the fact that people know that they can turn to you, turn to Lakeland Now, turn to whatever venture you're involved in, because there's going to be that accuracy and that key that says research was put into this and this is the correct information. I know this time of year, this season is dear to you because there's some things that you're working on. There's some fundraising projects and some. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, so as we're a nonprofit organization, which I hadn't mentioned before, but Lakeland Now is nonprofit. We're a 501c3, and we're a member of an organization, a national organization called the Institute for Nonprofit News. And every year during November and December, we're part of a national effort called Newsmatch. And what Newsmatch is basically a matching grant program. When we get contributions from our readers, they are matched 100% by a syndicate of foundations, Knight Ridder Foundation, Democracy Fund. There's about 10 different organizations that contribute. So it's a big time of year in terms of making sure we get the budget we need to run the newsroom for the next year.
Do you ever get nervous when you get around to this time of year, or are you confident that the material that you put out, the work that you've done, speaks such volumes that the funding will be there because people want this kind of journalism?
We've been very fortunate that we've been able to raise the maximum the last few years. We've got a very good community affairs director.
Some lady named Trinity.
Trinity Loreno, yeah, she does a great job.
She does.
And
I think she's running around here somewhere trying to keep things straight.
As she usually does during these broadcasts. Yeah.
Wonderful.
People have been very generous during Newsmatch. This year, in addition to just the appeal, we had a nice evening at Yard on Mass last Friday night. A lot of people came out, and we had a lot of donations there.
Wonderful.
And we have a photo contest that is going on right now. On our website, there's a link from the homepage, and people can enter the photo contest. LkldNow.com/photo contest. Is that the right one? Share your photos.
Seen in Lakeland.
Seen in Lakeland. That's
there
right.
You go.
LkldNow.com/seen in Lakeland. We broke the fourth wall there.
Well, I am sure that you have a great vision and a great hope for Lakeland Now, for the city of Lakeland. I mean, you've lived here but we're from elsewhere, but this
Right,
is so,
right,
so
right, right,
home.
right.
And I guess, what is your vision for Lakeland now?
Well, for Lakeland Now, it really is to connect people with the community, to get people engaged with the community through news and information. We do have a filter. I think every publication has a particular, I don't know, viewpoint. And our viewpoint or our filter for what we cover is that we like to cover news about efforts to make Lakeland more livable. So, that kind of goes a lot into what we do and don't cover. You won't see a whole lot of breaking news coverage. There is some. Sometimes people need to know if somebody's out on the loose or something. But we tend to focus a lot on development, growth, business, economics, government, politics, just the kind of things that people need to know. One thing we do that's a little more featurey is dining. People love to read about the
Yes.
cool new restaurants. We do a little bit of music coverage as well.
So are you concerned, or have you had to answer many critics who want to know why, for example, that they're not seeing the blood and guts, they're not seeing the gore, they're not seeing somebody drove over somebody on I-4, or that it's backed up in. Is this a concern, or many critics, have a concern of many critics?
I really don't hear that. I think people are kind of realize that the news that we cover is news about efforts to make the Lakeland a more livable city, and just for things like the big backups on the interstate, the major crimes. Even if they're not on the website, there will be some reflection of it either on Twitter or Facebook, just to get the word out when people need to know that the roads are jammed. So we do get those things out, just in a little bit different way.
I know that we talked about the girls a little bit earlier, and
Right.
we mentioned both are educators,
That's
followed
correct.
in mom's footstep.
Exactly.
And but I want to ask you, because it takes a village, it takes parents,
Right.
and I just wanted to find out, what do you think the greatest lesson maybe that you have engendered in them that'll carry them even when they're out of the classroom?
I don't know. I mean, I've actually learned so much from my daughters. They
Wow.
have so much strength and resilience and perseverance. I've really learned a lot just from them. They've both been through a lot, but have emerged very strong and very grounded and centered. And I really do. I learned from them.
Yes. So I don't know that there is any such thing as retirement in any part of your immediate future. But when you sit back
Right.
and enjoy family time, and you're going to turn your back a little bit, maybe, or look from with one eye into news, what kind of legacy are you hoping you would have left?
Oh gosh, well, the thing I'm trying to do right now is to get Lakeland Now to a point that it's sustaining without me, so that it becomes a part of the media landscape, so that as conventional media continues to diminish, and hopefully it doesn't continue to diminish, but so far it is. They're haven't even reported this yet. Might be known by the time this comes out, but several reporters at the Ledger took buyouts just this week, so that those numbers are going down. As you know, the radio station no longer has a news operation. I'm hoping that Lakeland Now can fill in the gaps, and that we can continue to grow with the help of the community, as all the conventional media, as an advertising model for conventional media, has shrunk. We need a replacement. We don't need Lakeland to become a ghost news town where there's no credible way to find out what's going on.
Well, I have every confidence, and if likability is an asset to what happens when it comes to news and the coverage that we see, then Lakeland Now is going to be around for a very, very, very long time. Barry Friedman, is an honor not only to sit across from you, but to have you as a mentor and a colleague and a friend. You're an upstanding citizen, sir, and we're better that you left Atlanta and came here and decided to make here your home.
I love it here. Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us. We have another great episode upcoming not too far from now. We'll see you then.